up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. So last Friday was an exciting night. So earlier that day, I took my small kids school clothes shopping. We got back home just in enough time for me to watch some of Love After Lockup. I did not get to see the last 10 minutes of it because Daonte jumped on an Instagram live on his Instagram account and I hopped on with him. So as I was on the live with him, Rachel from Love After Lockup also appeared. Derek was there with him. And then Auntie's Advice came in. And how have I missed Auntie's Advice, you guys? I do not know. But after I saw her on the live, I went and checked her out. She has great content covering Love After Lockup. I will drop her link in the description box below. If you guys are not following her, check her out. She's hilarious. Also, Gio was on there as well. So it was a good time. However, I did miss the last 10 minutes of Love After Lockup. So today I went back and rewatched it and I got my notes here. We're going to do a recap. I'm going to tell you guys what's going on. This episode was great. Next episode is going to be even better. Okay, even better because Jeff has a secret that he has not told Anissa, but he told Kyle, Anissa's friend. And Kyle is saying if Jeff doesn't tell, he will. Also, at the end of this episode, Deontay pulls up on Nicolle doing something super shady. So in the next episode, we get to see how he reacts to that. So let's get into this week's episode and what happened. So it starts off with Deontay and Nicolle. He's bringing her to his house to meet his mom. They're making dinner when she tells Deontay that she needs to talk to him. So she pulls her purse out, her expensive purse that Deontay has purchased for her, and she pulls out a price list for breast implants. Now, Deontay, obviously, he's like, I'm making dinner for my mom. My girlfriend's about to meet my mom. So he's shocked that she pulls out this price list, right? And he's like, listen, I don't want to look at that right now. She tells him, look, no, it's a great deal. They're only $6,000. Only $6,000. I thought that would be $8,000, so it's a great deal. Like, I'm shocked. We're going to get it at a deal, right? And he's like, listen, that's a lot of money. $6,000, $8,000, that's a lot of money. And like, I really can't afford that right now. So she reminds him that he promised. And he tells her, I know what I promised you, and I'll get it figured out, but not right now. Like, I don't want to focus on that right now. And she gets mad, and he finally says, look, I'll do it. You know, if I got to work extra, or if I got to go without paying my rent, I'll do it. I think he was literally saying that to be sarcastic. That's what I took that as, like, work my butt off, not pay my rent, whatever. Like, I would hope that Deontay would pay his rent. But he did say that. And then she literally smirked, and she said, you would not pay your rent just to take care of me and, you know, pay for my boob job? And he was like, I mean, I guess if that's what it took. And she said in the confessional that made her so happy to know that. What? Women out there, you women out there, tell me, what kind of woman would be happy to hear their man say, I will pay for your boob jobs before paying my rent? No. Any woman that cares about her man would say, no, absolutely not. I don't want you to put yourself in a bind just over something that I don't have to have. That's what real women do. Real women are responsible and they want their men to be responsible. But Nicolle is selfish, in my opinion. And Nicolle only cares about herself. So that's why she was literally happy to hear Daonte, a man that she proclaims to love, say that he would go without paying his rent just to make sure she got those boobs. Anyways, right after that, she realized that it is her ex, Tia's birthday. So she runs to her phone and she says, it's Tia's birthday. I got to call Tia. She goes back to the back room and phones Tia. Now, as soon as she gets Tia on the phone, Tia tells her that she don't feel well. And she replies to Tia, well, I'm trying to come take care of you. Now, Deontay can kind of hear some of this. So he's like sitting there listening. She says, I'm trying to come take care of you. And then she said that she told Tia that she did not want to meet Deontay's mom. And she asked Tia to come get her. At this point, Deontay's like, what did she just say? So he walks to the room and he's standing there just listening. And that's when she pulls out something from underneath Deontay's bed. It's Nicolle Jr. So she pulls Nicolle Jr. out and she's still on the phone with Tia and she starts like dogging Daonte about this toy. She's telling Tia, oh my God, I found this toy. It's so disgusting. I told him to throw it away, but he still has it. In a confessional, she literally says that it disgusts her to think about Daonte being intimate with the toy or getting his business on with the toy, you know? And I'm like, hold up, girl, you're his girlfriend. Why does that disgust you? I don't understand. To me, it just shows even more and more that she is not with him because she really likes him or cares about him at all. So at that point, when she's like dogging Daonte over this Nicolle Jr., he comes in there and he's like, what is going on in here? And she throws Nicolle Jr. at him and asks him what's up with that. And he tells her he's not talking about Nicolle Jr. right now. He wants to know why she's on the phone with her ex, bitch, dogging him in his own house. And Nicolle tries to twist things up. So he says, I heard what you said. You're in my house on my phone telling your ex, bitch, that you don't even want to be here, that you don't want to meet my mom. You're telling her to come get you. And Nicolle says, no. I told her to come get me after I found your toy. But let me tell you guys, that was not the case. That was not the case. As soon as Nicolle got on the phone with Tia, she says, I'm trying to come take care of you. Why don't you come get me? I don't even want to meet his mom. She didn't find I keep hitting the mic. She didn't find Nicolle Jr. until after saying those things. But she tried to flip the script on Daonte to try to make it seem like she was mad at him, and that's why she said it. So Deonte's like, no. And he tells her, he says, you can give me my phone back, you can give me everything I've ever gotten you, and you can get your out of here if that's how it's going to be. If you're only with me to get what you can get, then leave. It was at that moment, it was at that exact moment that Nicolle like calmed down a little bit. She was like, I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to do this. Literally, because she didn't think that Daonte had it in him to do that. You know, I think a lot of people question it. Like, Daonte, what you going to do? What you going to do? Because so many times we would see those moments where we would be like, say something. And he would just kind of let it go. So I think Nicolle did not see this coming. So when he said, I'll get my phone back, I'll get everything back that I've ever given you, and you can get yourself out of here. I think that's when she realized, oh, no, I need to calm down a minute. I need to take a step back, and I need to make this right. So that's when she calmed down, and she's like, listen, I don't want to fight with you. And now, mind you, his mom is on her way over for dinner. So he like smooths things out with her. He's like, okay, listen, I don't want to fight with you either. My mom's about to be here, so we got to get it together. So they go back in the living room, and when they get in the living room, they both get a beer to kind of calm down. And that's when Deonte's mom knocks on the door. He lets her in. She comes in and she meets Nicolle for the very first time, and Nicolle has a beer in her hand. Now, they're adults, I get it, but I do think it's kind of a respect thing. Like, when I introduce you to my parents, if you're like just got out of prison and you may have an addiction or something like that, you're not going to have a beer in your hand. That's just me, though. That's just me. And look, we're from the South. People drink down here. It's not a bad thing, but I'm just saying, just to show respect to his mom, I don't think she should have had a beer in her hand. I think that was a little disrespectful, but whatever. Different strokes for different folks, right? So the mom comes inside and they sit down at the table and they start eating their dinner. And the mom asks Nicolle, like, so what's your deal? What is it? And Nicolle tells her that she understands how it looks. Daonte met a woman from jail, and, you know, it may look a certain way, but she promises that that's not what it is. And she tells Deonte's mom that she loves Daonte. So Deonte's mom asks her, well, why? Why do you love my son? And Nicolle, I think Nicolle done this to be manipulative. Nicolle said, you raised a good guy. He's a gentleman because of you. You raised him to be a gentleman. And the mom's like, I know I raised him to be a gentleman. And I also know he wears his heart on his sleeve, and that's why I'm protective of him. So I don't want to see you doing anything shysty, right? So I feel like Nicolle complimenting the mom the way that she did, just seeing Nicolle, what I have seen of her, I think that was her way of trying to manipulate the situation, thinking, oh, if I compliment his mom, then maybe she'll like me. Like, if I say you raised a great guy and it's because of you that he is this way, then maybe I'll win the mom over. But it didn't work with his mom. She was like, not having it. So they're talking for a little bit, and Daonte tells his mom that since Nicolle has been out of jail, that he has spent every night at his house alone. That Nicolle has not stayed there with him or slept in the same room with him. I think up until that point, she did stay one night, but she slept in a different room. So the mom is like, stop the bus. What is going on here? And the mom, she's like, listen, we're women. We like to be intimate just as well as a man does. You mean to tell me you've been away from your man for 4 years, or you've been away from any man for 4 years, and you're not coming home to do the grown-up? Like, what's the problem? So Nicolle tells her that the problem is that she's just not ready, that she doesn't know how she feels, she's uncomfortable. And the mom says, but you're not uncomfortable when you ask him for money, right? So you're uncomfortable to the point to where you won't be intimate with him, but you're not so uncomfortable that you can't ask him for his money or to buy you things, correct? And I was like, yes, ma'am, that's right, that is right. My thing is, if your girlfriend and boyfriend, don't expect... girlfriend and boyfriend, if you I said this so country, if you are a girlfriend and boyfriend, do not expect him to buy you thousands of dollars worth of stuff if you're not giving him something back in return. It's like a compromise. It's a 50-50 deal, you know what I'm saying? And we know that she was a sexual person before she went to jail. It's not like she's a virgin, you know. She's a sexual person, so it's just weird that she's refusing to give up the cookie, you know, but she's okay with him spending tons of dollars on. So after that, he leaves to take her home. On the way home, he tells her, he's like, I think my mom likes you. And Nicolle in the confessional says that meeting went terrible. It did not go well at all. So he drops her off at her house, and as she goes to get out, he opens the door as well. She stops him and tells him, no, I don't want you to come in. And he tells her, I'm not coming in, I'm just going to walk you to the door like I always do. And in a confessional, he says, I always walk her to the door to make sure she gets in safe. It's a thing that a gentleman does, right? That's what a gentleman will do, walk you to your door to make sure you get in well. But she stopped him and she said, no, every time you do that, the dogs bark, my mom gets mad, and then she gripes at me. I don't want to hear that tonight. So just sit in your car, whatever. So he does. As he's pulling away, he notices that Nicolle sits down outside in front of the front door. And he says she has never done that. All the nights that I bring her home, she goes straight in the house. So her sitting outside is a little weird to me. So I'm going to park and scope things out and see what's about to happen. So he does just that. And Nicolle is so focused on her phone, she doesn't even see Deontay just parked down the street because she's so in her phone texting someone. So after a few minutes, Deontay's parked there and a car pulls by him, and then pulls right in front of Nicolle's house. Nicolle gets up and walks over to the car. And it looks like Nicolle is about to get in the car when Daonte pulls up and yells, Nicolle, what the heck are you doing? So next week's episode, as far as they're concerned, is going to be very interesting. In the clip for next week, we saw Daonte yell something about, you're not about to disrespect my mother. I think that's what he said, as he's throwing things out of the back of his car. One of the things that I noticed that he threw was the big teddy bear. So the items that he's throwing from the trunk of his car appear to be the things that he has purchased for Nicolle. So next week, I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Now, at first, I thought this is when Tia makes her appearance, but I think this is actually Zach that pulls up. Next week, we'll get to find out. So next we have, who do we have? Stan and Lisa. So Stan and Lisa, they are at the bar. They've just kind of made amends, and Stan has asked Lisa to come back to his place with him. So she tells him that she will, but she says once they get back there, that she still wants to talk. They get in the car and they leave. And after they get in the car, Lisa tells him that she thinks that she needs to find her own place. That she doesn't think it's a good idea for her to continue living with Stan, but for her to get her own place and start having some responsibilities and doing things on her own, and they can kind of like date. Then she says that first things first, though, before her getting her own home, is that she will get a car. That's what she tells him. She's like, I have to get a car. First things first is that. And she turns to him and she says, so we'll go to the dealership and pick me out a car, right? And Stan, he's like, I don't really know about that, Lisa, because you don't have a license. Now, Lisa is like, that's not the deal that we made. When I was in prison, you told me that once I got out, you would give me $5,000 for a car. Now, to me, that is a little bit different. Giving her $5,000 and letting her do that on her own is different from him going to the dealership and then picking the car out and possibly putting it in his name. Now, if I was Stan, I would definitely not do that. And I just wouldn't imagine that Lisa going to a car dealership, just getting out of prison, no job history, would be able to get a car. I think she would possibly need Stan there to sign for the loan. So anyways, he tells her, I don't think that's a good idea. You don't have a license. I don't want you driving around with no license. And she tells Stan, I'll handle that. I'm a big girl. I'll take care of it. Now, here's the issue that I have with that. Is if this car is in Stan's name and you get pulled over with no license, will he get in some sort of trouble? Will this make his insurance go up? Because if so, I feel like that's Stan's business. He has the right to say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put myself in the position to where if you got caught driving without a license, it could come back on me somehow and make my bills go up. So no, I'm not doing that. But he ends up agreeing to at least giving her the $5,000. He's like, okay, fine. I'll give you the $5,000. Now, as they're talking, blue lights come on right behind him. Stan gets pulled over. Now, this makes Lisa extremely paranoid. Lisa says, I have 15 felonies, 13 of which are drug charges. So if they run my name, they're bringing backup, they're bringing the dogs out, and they're going to tear Stan's car apart. She's very nervous. I can see her point. I'm terrified of the blue lights too. So she says she's got PTSD from it, and I feel that as well. So the cop comes up and tells Stan that he ran a red light. Now Stan gives over his ID, and the cop walks back to run Stan's name. When he walks back up, he gives Stan his ID and he says, listen, just don't run any more red lights in front of the police. Stan says, okay, and he lets him off with a warning. Now, when they drive off, Stan tells Lisa, see, it's because of my good driving record that I got away with a warning. Had that been you, it would have been different. Now, that ticked Lisa off, obviously, because, well, there's a little bit of truth to that, I think, that had it been her, it would have went down a little bit different. But because Stan does have a good driving record, he did get a warning. So they get home, and when they pull up, Stan says, let's get out, baby. I'm ready to go upstairs and cuddle. This aggravates Lisa because Lisa's like, no, we need to talk. And Stan tells her, can we just go upstairs and cuddle? Like, I don't want to talk anymore. I'm kind of tired. At that point, she gets mad and she starts kind of, not really yelling, but kind of high tone. This is what you do. This is what you do. I'm not going to come home and jump right up in your bed. Like I told you, we had some stuff to talk about. Now, Stan ends up getting mad and he tells her that she can leave again. In a confessional, he said, ever since she's been out, she's just been demanding things from me. This is not who she was when she was in prison. But ever since she's been here, she's demanding that I do this, that I get her that I do this, while not giving me anything that I'm requesting. I'm not going to put up with it. So he goes in the house, he gets a bag of her belongings, comes back out, and throws them outside the door. So Lisa picks her stuff up and she says, I just need to leave before he calls the cops on me and I end up in prison. So she turns around and she walks off. She's like walking down the road. Now, I do feel like she's probably going to call an Uber. She's just trying to get away from his house because he's mad. So I'm assuming that she's going to go back to a hotel room, and in a few days, Stan will call her and try to make amends with her like he did before. Now, I don't think they showed us anything concerning them for next week, so they may not appear on next week's episode. I'm really not sure. Next, we have Anissa and Jeff. Jeff gets out of the halfway house, so Anissa goes to pick him up. He gets out with an ankle monitor on. He has to wear that for 3 more months after he goes home to Anissa. As soon as he gets out and they're on their ride home, Anissa immediately starts talking about their wedding, the flowers that she's picked out and where it's going to be located. And you can see Jeff is like, oh crap, like he's not ready to talk about this wedding. He then drops this bomb on Anissa that they have to get their wedding approved. That if they want to get married, they have to sit down and write a letter to the BOP to get approval of this. I've never heard anything like it, and if you guys have, leave me a comment in the comment section below. If any of you guys have any history of being on parole, or you know someone that was on parole and they had to get their wedding approved, let me know in the comments. So I didn't believe it. I don't believe it. I think this is just his way of stalling because their wedding is in 2 months. So I think this is Jeff's way of making sure the wedding does not happen immediately. In a confessional, he did say that Anissa is the one that's excited for this wedding. How did he say? If I would have to say who's more excited for the wedding, it would definitely be Anissa. I don't think Jeff is excited at all. So they finally pull up to the house. He goes inside, and it wasn't very long before Anissa told him, I've been talking to you for 11 years, and I've been waiting this whole time to get you into my bedroom. So they go to the bedroom. She throws a towel over the camera. So thank God we don't have to be subjected to any of their nastiness, right? And they do the grown up. Now, while she was throwing the towel over the camera, Jeff come through in a confessional. And this is what he had to say. He said, I've been talking to Anissa for 10 years, but it's only been 36 months since I've been with a woman. He also said that during his time in prison, he's had 5 other girlfriends, all of which he still keeps in touch with, and Anissa doesn't know. So, he has not been faithful to Anissa. He's talked to 5 other women while in prison. While in prison, Anissa is not aware of this, and he says he plans to keep it that way. Now, the next morning, we're back at their house, and they go in for a round 2, and after that, she gets up and she goes to make him breakfast. As she's making breakfast, he goes outside to smoke, and he's sitting outside at a table, and as he's out there, his phone starts going off. The producers ask him, who is that? And he tells them, oh, that's Christine. That's my ex. When I got put in the halfway house, she reached out on Facebook, and we've been talking ever since, and Anissa doesn't know. So this is a secret that he's keeping from Anissa, that he is in contact with his ex, Christine. Now, earlier he did say 5, so I guess she's one of the 5. Anissa comes out and brings him breakfast, and as they're sitting there eating, Kyle walks over because Kyle and Anissa live on the same property. Now, I didn't know that. I just thought they were really good friends, and Kyle, was just coming over to visit, but it seems like he lives very close to her. So he walks over, and as he's walking over to her, Jeff says, oh God, not this guy. And Anissa whispers to Jeff, you don't have to be that way. You really don't. So Kyle sits down. Anissa asks Kyle, does he want a plate of breakfast? He says, sure. So she gets up to go get it. Now, as she's gone and the 2 guys are sitting there, Kyle starts questioning Jeff just a little bit. So, what did you do before? The last 2 times you got locked up, where did you go? And Jeff told Kyle that he went back to the streets, that he went back to doing drugs, any drugs he could get his hands on, because he didn't care nothing about Anissa. But this time was different. And Kyle asked him, so what's different about it? And he says, well, I allowed myself to fall in love with Anissa. Falling in love with her, I knew I wanted to come here. As they're talking, Jeff tells Kyle that he has a little bit of a problem, that he has a secret that he's been hiding from Anissa, and he wants to talk to Kyle about it. Now, I've wondered, what is the secret? I've saw some comments of people speculating. So one of the theories is that Jeff is married, and he's not going to be able to marry Anissa in 2 months like she wants. I think that's a good theory to have. I'm kind of leaning towards that myself, is that he is married. So we're going to go with that one. Maybe he's married. Now, in the preview for next week's episode, Kyle said that if Jeff doesn't tell Anissa, he will. So that's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see what that secret is. But we do know if he doesn't tell, Kyle's going to do it. So next we have Brittany and Ray. Ray is getting out of the halfway house as well. Brittany showed up to go pick him up, but as she's there waiting, Shady Granny pulled up, right? I call her Shady Granny because that's what Brittany called her when she done an interview not too long ago. She called her Shady Granny. Now, I don't think she's Shady Granny. I think she's Awesome Granny, but I just thought it was funny. Shady Granny. So as she's waiting for Ray, Granny pulls up, and Brittany walks over to her and she asks her, hey, what are you doing here? Does Ray know that you're coming? And she said, no, he doesn't know that I'm coming, and I didn't know I was coming either. I just at the last minute decided to come. In a confessional, Granny said, I don't need a reason to be here. Ray is my grandchild, and if I want to be here, I'll be here. I don't have to tell no one. She also said that she was going to be keeping an eye on Brittany and Ray, and that if she needed to intervene, she absolutely would. And I was like, I love Shady Granny. Yes, ma'am, I love Shady Granny. So when Ray comes out, I was like, oh goodness, who's he going to go home with, right? Is he going to ride with Shady Granny? Is he going to ride with Brittany? Well, he chose to go home with Brittany. When she asked, so who are you going to ride with, me or your granny? He's like, girl, I'm riding with you. And the granny laughed, and she said she understood. She told him that she would see him later, and she got in her vehicle and she left. So Brittany and Ray, they get in Brittany's vehicle and they head home. They get to Brittany's house, they go inside, and she shows him around. She takes him to the bedroom. She's like, this is the bed. They sit on the bed for a few minutes, and it gets kind of awkward. There's this awkward silence. Brittany was wanting Ray to just throw her back and do the grown-up with her. But Ray was like, I don't know what to do. So he's like, hey, let's go check out this kitchen. They get up and go to the kitchen, and he asks Brittany to make him something to eat. So she makes him breakfast, like eggs, pancakes, bacon. So she makes his breakfast. They sit down and eat. And after they eat the breakfast, they're sitting there eating strawberries, and he picks the bowl of strawberries up and he tells her that he wants them to go to the bedroom and she can finish feeding him the rest of those strawberries. So they get up, they go to the bedroom, and they're kissing as she closes the door. So that's where their segment of this episode ends, with them finally about to get lucky. Now, Ray says it's been 3 years since he's been intimate with a woman. So I imagine he's a little nervous. Also, I did not see on the preview for next week's episode, I don't recall seeing them either. So next we have Courtney and Josh. So Courtney and Josh back at their house. Josh has been out of prison for 10 days and he has been on the PlayStation or the Xbox, whatever gaming system it is that he has. He's been on it the whole time, according to Courtney. So as their segment comes on, she walks into the room and she tells him, you've been doing nothing but this. Like, you don't spend time with me. This is all you do. You've been out of jail for 10 days and you stay doing this. And Josh's response was, I'm sorry. He doesn't say, well, let me get off, or okay, let's watch a movie. He just says, I'm sorry, as he continues to play his game. So Courtney leaves. She heads to a bridal wedding dress shop, because while the two are married, they had a double proxy wedding. They were not at their wedding, so they've decided they're going to have an actual wedding where she will wear a dress and everything. So she goes to a shop to find her wedding dress. Now, as she's on her way to the shop, we hear her over a voiceover where she's talking about how he did not get approved to live with her. Josh didn't. So he can stay with her for a total of 14 days just to quarantine. But after those 14 days, he has to go stay with his cousin. And that's another reason that Courtney is super upset that he's just been on the game so much. Because she's like, he only has 14 days with me and then he has to move. So why isn't he trying to spend time with me, right? So that's going to be interesting, the fact that they're married, but they can't live together. How is that going to work? How is it going to play out? I don't know. She gets to the wedding dress shop. She goes inside. After a few minutes, her friend shows up to help her. Her friend's name is Audra. Audra pops up to help her. They're looking at gowns, and Audra asks her, so how's things been going? And Courtney tells her, they've been going good. Like, it's not awkward. It's not uncomfortable, but it's not as good as I thought it would be. And Audra asks her, well, why? What's the deal? And she says, well, he just stays on the video game all the time. And Audra asks, do you think he's on the game more than he's spending time with you? And Courtney says, absolutely. At 100%, he is on that game way more than he's spending time with me. But Courtney does say, like, I still want to go through with this wedding. It doesn't mean I don't want to marry him. I'm just upset about it. And then Courtney tells us and Audra that he's not really sexually active with her. That since he's been out of prison, since he's been out of prison, they've only done it a couple of times. And she says that when she tries, he usually turns her down, and then that hurts her feelings. So she's feeling some type of way about it, which I would too. Man, been in jail this time, we're married, you get out, you want to turn me down all the time? I would be upset, right? So I understand what she's feeling. So she's upset at how things have been going with their relationship since he's been home. And she's upset over the fact that he's going to have to leave soon. And their relationship is just not where it needs to be. She also tells her friend that while he was in prison, about a month before his release, they got into it and he flushed his wedding ring. So he doesn't even have a wedding ring. I don't know if she's going to get him a new one. I don't know. If it was me, I probably wouldn't, because that's just money down the toilet, right? Money down the drain. So that's the way their segment ends. She finds a dress. She does find the dress that she will walk down the aisle in. It's a beautiful dress. Audra's taking pictures of her in the dress. And as Audra shows her the pictures, she says, pretty, I'd marry me. So can't wait to see what's going to happen next week with them. Now, on the previews for next week's episode, Courtney is standing like by the couch and she's yelling at Josh. And she tells him, I gave up everything for you. I don't remember what he says, but he mumbles something like, sorry again. I'm not really sure. So next week's episode, she's going to be jumping his butt again, telling him like, you're not present. What's the deal? So that's this week's episode, you guys. Rachel and Doug, they were not in this week's episode. Missed them. I was really looking forward to seeing what was going to happen as far as after that fight kind of broke out at his family's house. Did they leave? We do know that before they leave, Doug yells, "I've been to jail and I'm not scared to go back." Now, in a preview for next week's episode, we see Rachel and she's talking about how she's kind of nervous that Doug may get in trouble for being out during the weekend because he's not supposed to be. So next week, Rachel and Doug will be back. I'm not sure about Lisa and Stan or Brittany and Ray because I didn't see any clips of them next week. But Daonte, yep, he's going to be going crazy on next week's episode, throwing all of Nicole's belongings that he purchased. Why did you throw them out? Just take them back home with you. Give them to someone else. Ship them to me. You know what I'm saying? But he did. He threw them all out of the trunk and was not happy about the fact that she had someone else roll up on her house. She was about to go hang out with someone. I think it was Zach. So next week's episode, looking forward to you guys. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this week's episode. How do you guys feel about the whole Nicolle situation? Deonte's mom calling her out. Was you guys applauding like I was? Because I sure was. Also, how did you guys feel about Lisa demanding that Stan buy her a car? Do you guys feel like he should? Do you guys feel like he is obligated to give her that money to buy her a car? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, Josh and Courtney, he's been out of prison for 10 days and he's not paying her no mind. What's your thoughts on that? Who else we got? Oh, Anissa and Jeff. Leave me your thoughts on them as well. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you haven't already. Also, make sure you guys follow me on my social media accounts. I have a TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. I think the only one that I'm really not doing that right now is my Facebook account. But yeah, go check me out on the other social media accounts. All of those handles and links will be in the description box below. I will also link Auntie's Advice and Gio's channel in the description box. You guys go check them out and leave me your thoughts. Make sure you check back next week for next week's recap. And until then, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye, everyone.